Hello, dear FinTech community, and very welcome at our Partnership as the Future of Banking event organized by Elevator Lab, powered by RBI. It is my pleasure to welcome you on stage. My name is ViennaUP’21. I'm the co-founder of Broadcasten. And I'm looking forward to this event, actually. It's a very important topic that RBI is pushing here. We prepared a very good program for you, a lot of presentations, Q&As, some FinTech success stories, and a panel as well. And feel free to interact with us. I will be following our hop-in chat. We have 2 Q&A sessions for you to ask the speakers whatever you want to ask, but also feel free to comment something, to put your input in the chat. We will have the protocol of it, and we can also work with this chat after that. As you probably all know, Elevator Lab is one of the leading partnership programs on the global scale, and obviously leading one in Europe. And I'd like to welcome the one responsible for it on the strategic level, on the group level, Hannes Zizek, the head of group strategy at RBI. Mr. Zizek is the head of group strategy. As such, he is at the helm of 3 departments within RBI: strategic partnerships and ecosystems, strategy development, and corporate development and strategic steering. Elevator Lab program is positioned within the strategic partnerships and ecosystems. Hannes, welcome on stage, and I will ask you to give us some overview, introduce the event, and also give us some overview on the strategic value of the FinTech collaboration for the RBI. Welcome on stage, and please give us some welcoming remarks.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, from my side. First, thank you for joining, and secondly, I'm happy to have the opportunity to share with you a few thoughts on partnerships and cooperation overall. I think both the event and our overall commitment to FinTech partnerships fits very well into the bigger picture of our group in dedication and responsibility for our clients. I think this goes actually back to the roots of Raiffeisen, I think. I think we have, as a cooperative banking group, we have cooperation in our DNA. I think if you go back to the first steps of Raiffeisen, I think that the aim to become stronger together and to partner up and to cooperate to solve issues, economically, social, environmental, is very deep in our DNA. I think secondly, this is also what we try to live in Central and Eastern Europe as Raiffeisen Bank International. We have a very strong relationship approach. We just not try to sell to our clients the next best product, but really the product that helps our clients and customers to solve certain issues. And I believe this is also why we are such a pioneer in ESG in Central and Eastern Europe, and why we are so strong in helping and supporting our clients in economic and social terms in their transformation. I believe this strength comes from our roots and our DNA. And why I'm mentioning this so strongly is because this was also the foundation to a certain extent of our FinTech partnership program and our initiatives that we started 5 years ago in the region. I mean, Dejan mentioned it, and we are super proud that in the meantime, Elevator Lab became the biggest FinTech partnership program in the region, from Russia to Czech Republic, from Poland to Albania. We are super proud about this. But I believe that for us, this was a very natural development, and aiming for partnerships and cooperation, as I said earlier, is very, very keen. We were very keen always to live up to this. But also, and this is maybe the third pillar beside our cooperative roots and the topic of sustainably serving and supporting our clients, I think thirdly, we have also a strong focus on becoming even more recommended by our clients to others. I think we have in most of the markets we're operating in, we are number one in Net Promoter Score, especially in retail. I would say out of 8 out of 10 markets, we are number one in retail. This is of course a big achievement, and I think comes also from a lot of things that I mentioned earlier. But we want still to work on this, and we want to bring continuous innovation in our services and products to them. And here I come back. This is the loop back again to our fintech partnerships. And I think this openness to cooperation, we always lift up to it when we worked together with partners from the startup world, so to say, from the very beginning on. And I remember when we had the first round in the Elevator Lab a few years ago, that this was also the feedback we received, and we were very happy to get this, that our partner said, look guys, you are not just up for the next best investment, and you are not just up for so to say taking us over and incorporating our products and services into your big banking group, but you are really kind of you see us on the same level, you treat us as equals, you really look to help also ourselves in our development, and not only to sell a product, so to say. And I think this is the reason for our success. I think what we are now curious about, and I think still is still open, is of course the power of API in the region. We invested a lot into our Open API program. You will hear later more about that. This is for us not only, so to say, PSD2 and everything related to it. We are working on Open API beyond PSD2. And we believe in the power of Open API as an additional lever for cooperation and for ecosystems to be developed in the region. And yeah, so I think this is from my side in a nutshell where we currently are, why these corporations are so important to us, and what we can offer. I believe that my colleagues will later on explain much better than me how it works in detail. What are we exactly looking for? How is a proof of concept in our case with RBI Group working? What regions, what products, what segments are we looking at? So I will spare you now with this, as my colleagues can explain this much better than me. But I just wanted to give you a real insight on why we started this journey, why we invested so much in Elevator Lab time and resources in making this a successful program, and why working together and cooperation, I think, is very deep in our DNA.
Hannes, I would like to ask you one additional question in this regard, because you mentioned that you started 5 years ago, and you mentioned you were not just up for, I don't know, doing sales or taking over companies, but I'd like to add one point. You were also not just up to doing PR. You were very serious when you started, and you were expanding, and you keep expanding this program. It started as a partnership, as an accelerator. You have investment, venture capital unit. You have partnerships on the blockchain API level. Will this remain? Will you keep up this speed of being committed to these partnerships in the future as well?
Yeah. This clearly yes. So I think if the background of your question is if the crisis or the pandemic in the last 12 months changed something in this respect, I think it was a catalyzer to a certain extent for many big banks and many companies. That on the one hand side, you saw the fitness of certain business models and operating models, which has also its positive sides, I must say. And also for our innovation portfolio, I think it was also a good time to review, to say, are we focusing on the right things? Do we waste any resources on things that are maybe not what we are looking for? So I would say in the core, back to your question, yes, a clear yes. We want to proceed on this. I think we take now a next step in Elevator Lab and the development of the program itself. And we believe, as I said earlier, that this is a powerful way of cooperation. And the last 12 months did not change this at all. I mean, most of the fintech corporations have a strong digital transformation connex, so to say. And as we all know, I mean, the usage of digital and digital interfaces became in the 12 months also in banking, much more important than they were in the years before. So I think also this underlines what I said. Yeah.
Since we have the opportunity to speak to you today, and you are one of the top bankers, banking managers in Austria, I'd like to, for a second, just zoom out. What is the general situation in the banking sector? Now we are getting vaccinated, so to say, optimism, also economical optimism. I think it's rising. Do you share this opinion? Are we going to expect growth, or do you fear some kind of, I don't know, insolvency situation in the future months?
I mean, the sentiment improves now a lot. No? If you look on all sentiment indicators economically in April and May, it is a steep curve. Yeah? So there was a lot of, let's say, negative sentiment in Q1, no? Because nobody saw an end of this, so to say, and this improved dramatically, which is very good. And I think, I mean, the uptick will be in the second half of 21 very big throughout the region in Austria and in most of the countries in Central and Eastern Europe. I think the banking sector itself, the banks went very well capitalized and sound and soundly, so to say, into this crisis. So I don't expect here any real problems in the banking sector systematically. And I think everybody, all the banks at least, prepared well now for on the side of risk costs and for the developments of the last 12 months. So I think what we also must not forget is, with the current monetary policy and this low interest rate environment, in combination with this huge state support, I mean, the aim of this was to keep companies into business and to keep unemployment low. And I think both things were, from my point of view, achieved. No? I mean, there will be certainly some companies that cannot go on. And there will be, of course, I mean, you saw it in some sectors, unemployment rose, but we believe this will all come back in the second half. So I would say, also when I look on our research team and their view on macro, we are very optimistic for the second half. But, and I think this is also important, if we look on the overall economic output, everybody's, or most of the researchers I read, believe that we will be output level, GDP-wise, back to the 2019 levels only in 2023 or 2022 earliest. Okay. I think this is also important. No? So it's a V-shape curve in the economic development, but I think we are for the second half of this year very, very optimistic. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Hannes, for taking time and giving us these insights. Thank you.
Happy to do. I wish you all a nice event. And I hope you can take much of the next discussions out.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the invitation.
Now, welcome back in our studio. Christian Wolf joined me in the meantime, Head of Strategic Partnerships and Ecosystems. Mr. Wolf is in charge of the Elevator Lab, Blockchain Hub and Open API. And Christian, you will give us a presentation on the Elevator Lab program and how it serves to build partnerships within the RBI group. Welcome on stage.
Certainly. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thanks for all of the audience online and virtual joining us in giving us the opportunity to present our offering to you, the FinTech and startup community. I've brought along actually a small presentation which I'd like to run you through, where I'd like to highlight a few things that we worked on the last years, and how we also conceive our program developing into the future.
Fantastic. And feel free to ask questions. I will, while you're presenting, read the chat. So I will ask you all the questions in the Q&A that will follow the presentation.
All right. Good.
Go ahead.
Then thank you. I'd like to start with a quick introduction into our Elevator Lab program. Actually, we are quite nicely positioned here with our headquarters in Vienna, Austria, as a central hub in the heart of Europe. You can easily see that within just 3 hours of flight time, we can cover almost all of our European market, especially our core markets in CE. And this is especially where our bank is focusing at, and consequently also our Elevator Lab is focusing at. Maybe for those who do not know RBI Group is a universal bank operating in a total of 25 markets, including 13 of those are located within CEE. And with roughly around 45,000 employees, we serve another roughly 18 million of customers. What we have seen as a general development over the last few years, and especially over the last few months, is that there is a very fast and gradual shift from a product-centric view into an experience-centric point of view. Let me just quickly give you an example. Back then, in the old days, more or less, banking was very much focused around the products that we could offer. Here in that example, I brought along mortgages. And meanwhile, from a customer's point of view, we want to position ourselves more needlessly within what they perceive the relevant ecosystem. So in the housing, this would be the whole customer journey, starting from identifying the need that they want to have an apartment or a house, financing that house, finding the house before, then financing it, maybe remodeling, refurbishing it, and ultimately maybe already selling it again. And within whole this customer journey, we at the bank have a very nice position that we can orchestrate this ecosystem together with our partners. And I think this is already pointing a little bit towards what I want to get to, meaning that we believe partnerships are an integral part of the future of banking. But this certainly also has an impact on banking, namely it shifts our business models a little bit. What we knew back then were these classical B2C and B2B models, and those developed into a B2B to something C or B model again, or even avatars, for instance. But there is even another shift coming along, and this is not something in the very distant future. This is already what we see now here, namely a B and B2X. And this already again points to the necessity and the importance of partnerships that we see. Meaning that we want to team up with fintechs, we want to team up with corporate partners, with big techs, with consortia, with university events, in order to cooperate and build new markets, new clients, and new proposals for our clients together. And as such, we have established kind of our own internal ecosystem that should cater to these different needs. What we've shown here on that slide is actually a set of different vehicles that all cater to that need of cooperation within an ecosystem. They are not exclusively within my team's responsibility, but they all interact very needlessly. I just give you one example. I don't want to go in too much details here, but for instance, open APIs for us is a very, very important foundation when it comes to digital business models, when it comes to the interaction and the integration of our services and products into third-party platforms, but also the other way around, and this is the interesting part also for fintechs, integrating fintech services into our platforms and services within our local banks or even on group level. What might be new to you here on that slide for our, let's say, loyal listeners is this cross-industry partnerships. We've seen more and more of our corporate and big tech approaching us, asking for technology partnerships with the bank. And we are now thinking about extending the Elevator Lab fintech partnership offer into an Elevator Lab partnership offer that would also include, let's say, more mature cooperation partners. Just for the sake of completeness, I want to mention the Blockchain Hub as a very ecosystem-driven technology that we have a very close look at. And certainly our partner, Elevator Ventures, who, and we will talk later on with Mark Schausberger on stage, who is investing into promising technology, promising fintechs, and promising business models. Maybe let's quickly focus on the Elevator Lab that is more or less in the center of today's discussion. The Elevator Lab is our, Hannes Zizek just mentioned it, since 4 years quite nicely established fintech partnership program. It's meanwhile running in its 5th batch, or we are preparing our 5th batch. And it's structured in 3 pillars. The one is the global program that's run out of head office. And here, this is a yearly program where we are aiming at partnerships with global fintechs. And here we are also looking at later stage fintechs that we together run jointly through a 9-month program and build POCs together with our experts within the bank. And then the other 2 pillars are actually local programs with our local network banks directly in the countries. This is, again, for later stage startups, but here we specifically put the focus on local fintechs. We want to give them a stage. We want to promote them here as well, and also test their solutions within POCs and how they might fit in our cooperation with the bank and the fintech. And the last pillar, important one, is what we call the bootcamp. This is for the early seed and the very early phase startups, where we can bring them together with the experts of the bank, work together on their business proposal and business model, and ultimately also help them scale their business either with us or hopefully also on a global scale with different and other clients. So I think most of the things that we see on that slide I have already verbalized. I just want to highlight one specific fact here. This is an equity-free program, so we do not take any stake in your company. We actually pay you for running together with us this POC, so we have a dedicated POC fund, and we bring together not only our experts in the field, but we also bring together you with our clients and our markets directly. And this I would like also to take as an invitation for you all out here interested in a cooperation to apply on our FinTech database. You can see it in the upper right corner, RBI fintechdatabase.com. Here you can apply for the next 5th batch that we are currently in progress of planning. That we are not talking about just marketing, and Hannes Zizek just mentioned it in his interview. I think this can clearly seen on our track record. So as said, we have already run successfully 4 tracks. Out of these tracks, we have run and completed 25 POCs across RBI Group. We have established more than 10 sustainable fintech partnerships across the group. And of course, we also cater to the surrounding auxiliary ecosystem, like we are now aiming for our 3rd edition of the Fintech Atlas that should launch beginning of June, so pretty soon. Again, here an invitation for you to join our launch event where we also feature the POCs of this year's patch, plus the new edition of the Fintech Atlas, which will come along in a completely new format. And I'm very much looking forward to that. Last but not least, thank you for listening. If you should have any further questions to us, directly contact us via all the channels listed here on the slide. So we are reachable by basically every social media channel, but also directly if you want to take it old school, pick up your phone and just call us, shoot us an email. I think there is no possible conceivable way where you cannot reach us. Thank you.
And also use the opportunity to ask Christian your questions now. We have a Q&A before some questions occur. Christian, obviously I have to ask you this question. Hannes mentioned it as well. What kind of impact did Corona have on your programs? Did that change your programs last year in 2020?
It certainly did, and I need to be honest that in the very beginning we were quite kind of frightened, as the whole program was very much based on physical presence, also really giving stage and visibility to our participants. And all of a sudden, but this was not exclusive to us, we were forced to virtualize basically everything. But actually, it turned out to be quite positive. Why? Because the program became much more inclusive. You know, now all of a sudden it was interesting again also for, I just make up an example, for an Indonesian startup to apply, as they did not need to be here physically. And they were, you know, all of them had the same issue of being virtually present in the program. So my impression was, yes, it was a challenge, but still it got more inclusive. It got richer in terms of topics that we've seen. And still we could deliver on the promise. Namely, we have chosen 4 different POCs that are currently running. And again, I just highlighted that beginning of June, we will present this in our, in our demo days. I think parts of that will definitely go back to old, meaning yes, physical presence, but a lot of the things that we learned there are so positive that we definitely want to keep them.
You also organized a couple of events which were mind-blowing in terms of interaction, in terms of how many people joined them. Is this digital community building that you started within Corona also something that you will pursue in the future?
Definitely, and I think it's also a need for us. As I just mentioned in my presentation, we firmly believe in the cooperation, but cooperation means get to know each other first, know what the other's capabilities, wishes, requirements, wants are, and then within this ecosystem discuss together our use cases. And as such, I strongly believe that the already close cooperation needs to get even closer.
You mentioned 2 times in your presentation and now in your answer June. Demo days, Atlas, there seems to be a lot of activities coming up in June.
Yep. Yes. Beginning of June, as said, the POCs will be presented. So the first minimum viable products that we built together with the chosen startup from batch 4. And for the loyal audience, you might still remember we have issued or we have launched 2 versions of the Fintech Atlas, giving insights into the Fintech ecosystem, into how we believe that the industry is developing. That both editions were still on paper, which was a little bit anachronistic, a little bit old school even. And what we did now and what we are aiming for is that we also will provide the Fintech Atlas online, but not as a one-time edition per year, but as a living tool. So we are aiming for creating a platform that serves for information, for insights, but also for exchange of the community that we want, or that we already have, but we still want to extend.
Amazing. Is this something that you will be able to show already in June, or is this work in progress?
We will launch actually that.
Wow.
So the platform will be live in June. It will be kind of pre-filled with the first topic. And starting from there, it would hopefully grow on a very regular basis.
Okay, I hope we were allowed to talk about that.
Yes.
Okay. In terms of the POCs, can you give us some sneak preview on the topics that were being dealt with?
Yeah, we can generally say that on a group level, so out of head office Vienna, we've been looking at customer experience solutions for large corporates, so value-added services for large corporates. That's been run on group level. With Tata Bank in a joint cooperation, we have run a challenge based on banking as a service or banking platforms in general. With our Romanian colleagues, pardon me. We have looked into analytic and loyalty solutions. So this is more or less the space that we're currently covering. And I think what's quite obvious here is that at the very beginning of the program, so in the first 2 batches, we see most applicants in the payment space. And this is a little bit moving away, now getting a little bit richer. So payments is still an important thing that we also still follow. But when it comes to cooperation, we are not limited to payments anymore. So we open up for every conceivable use case.
And that's probably something that you welcome, as you mentioned, that you're interested in the whole user journey of users to enrich their products and lives with your features and products.
Yes, definitely.
Will there be, you mentioned the 5th batch already and the application time. Who can apply also in terms of the scope of the solutions that you're looking for?
This is currently in progress, the definition of what are the search fields that we want to look into in this year. So follow us closely on our social media channel, follow us closely on in all kinds of media. We will pretty soon advertise what are the chosen topics. But then within these topics, there's basically no limitation, neither in the use case nor in the geography where the fintech or startup comes from.
Mm-hmm. Should there be a product available already? Are you also giving opportunities for very early stage startups to work with you?
Basically, yes. But in general, we are looking for startups that already have at least a minimum viable product. But as I mentioned in my presentation, we have a 3rd pillar locally, what we call the boot camps, and these are actually catering to the needs of these very early phase startups that potentially only have an idea, and we develop it further from there.
You mentioned the importance, or Hannes also mentioned the importance of the API topic, of blockchain topic. You remain focused on all fields that you cover within your scope of...
Yes, it might sound a little bit much, but we strongly believe the one does not work without the other.
And the API and the blockchain can also be a solution that somebody will bring into the Elevator Lab program.
Yes, thank you for mentioning this. The Elevator Lab itself is basically technology agnostic. So we do not look for blockchain, but we look for use cases. And if these can be delivered perfectly in blockchain, so be it.
Yeah. I think it's quite a remarkable and I would even call it mind-blowing development that you have gone through in the past 5 years. You have venture capital unit that you invest in these startups. Are these units working together more and more closely? Is this, so to say, one chain of value that you offer to fintech?
Definitely, because, for instance, if Elevator Ventures would invest into a fintech, we basically also benefit if we help that fintech grow. So we certainly take the ecosystem that Raiffeisen has at hand in the CE countries and the CE markets, and we try to push it there. We try to integrate these services, if applicable, of course, within our own platforms and services. So we really try to make the investment a smart investment.
Great. We have 2 questions. Georg Salmen is asking, how do you plan to add security into your ecosystem? I guess cybersecurity issue.
It's definitely a thing. I can't now really tell you, I can't commit to that as this is currently in discussion, but what we also did now at the very first time is that we integrated into our discussions in the focus and search field definition very closely our IT guys.
Okay.
So we now treat kind of IT equal to any other business line. And this will, of course, certainly also bring in technology aspects, security, cloud, and all those
That's
things.
a big step. I mean, we see that on a lot of corporations. That's a very big step. Another one, I think we should really stress that out. Another question from Gregory Kowalski. When application for an RBI program will be, when it will be open? When are you opening the applications?
Soon. I need to admit, I do not have the date exactly in my head because we are still, let's say, organizing and refocusing. But we will definitely open up applications now in June.
Okay. And if somebody wants to get in touch with you before that, anytime?
Yes, anytime.
Yeah.
The team stands ready.
Good. We have another Christian that is asking something. How much money does RBI invest for 1 year running the Elevator Lab? In case you're allowed to disclose that.
I would not disclose it out of competitive reasons, but also given the commitment that we have with fintechs, and as I said, we pay for the POC, we do not expect that services are rendered for free.
Yeah.
This is quite considerable.
Yeah, so maybe I can rephrase this question or to double down it. Is there enough budget there and enough resources on your side to work with these fintechs?
Yes, yes. But this is also the reason why we do not open up completely for all kind of search field. There is certainly much more of interest to us as a bank that we actually look for. But this is exactly what you said. This is also helping us keep the focus on fewer things, but do these things right. And then we certainly have another batch next year, and then we look into the other stuff.
And I think I saw it in your presentation, but maybe given this question, we can also repeat it again. You don't take equity for this program. It doesn't cost anything. To the contrary, you have a budget for working with these fintechs.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do we have any further questions? I don't see them. So maybe we can give an outlook on the final question. You mentioned already the June. What about the second half of this year and maybe midterm?
As said, we are rescoping a little bit the program itself. So what does this mean? That we want to give more responsibility to our local network banks as well. The reason is here, our local markets within CE are still quite heterogeneous. They have still different requirements when it comes to serving the customer, but also when it comes to regulatory and legal aspects. So bringing this closer to our countries also means bringing it closer to the customer. But, and I think this is an important thing to highlight, whenever we choose a solution, even locally, we always look on the scalability aspects for the group. So this would not mean if you apply for a local challenge in Romania, of course, this will be developed there first, but afterwards, there's always the potential to promote it to a group solution. And we've already done that in the previous years, like with Moxta and Pisano and all those big names.
I think before we close this session, this is something that I'd like to pick up, because I remember when you started 5 years ago, it was a group-wide event.
Yes.
In the second year, you had your first network banks getting involved. In the third year, I think they were so excited that they started doing their own challenges. Are they still committed in the whole network banks to work on that?
Yes, and even more so.
Okay.
You know, the initial idea of the program was, besides, of course, the main focus of cooperation with fintechs, was also educating the own organization on how to set up cooperation with fintechs. What does this mean to bring in other services? You know, the organization was always used to either build something on its own or through a traditional procurement process buy something from the market. But actually co-innovating and shaping a product together was not really known to that. And I think this is a great achievement of the program. The organization grew with the program, it matured with the program, and I think we have now reached a point where actually there is no such need anymore to run a big global program, because locally our guys know it so nicely and so well on how to cooperate. We have our processes in place to scale things across the group. And so I strongly believe this is to the benefit of every corporation. It's much closer to the client.
I think this can be a very important final remark. Wherever you apply for the program in Russia, in Romania, wherever, you guys have it on the radar, and it's an opportunity to grow within the whole group.
Yes, and I think I might add to that. So even if you're not picked or if you're not graduating in the program, we still look through all of the applications, and we've seen a lot of cases already where where some were not in the program, but still we sought for a cooperation, because we found this is a solution that is really nice, and actually we are currently looking is exactly that. Let's pick it, bring it there.
Or it could happen 6 months later or a year later, where you have it somewhere in your data.
Yeah.
Perfect. Christian, thank you very much for these insights. It's really exciting to see how these programs are expanding and how committed the whole group is to make a success story, or even bigger success story as it is already now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Speaking of success stories, actually, we have now a fintech success story for you. And with us is Gentai Zotai, managing partner of AI-Land. AI-Land is a fintech that participated in the Elevator Lab bootcamp and recently launched their partnership with Raiffeisen Bank Albania, a success story of the Elevator Lab. Gentai, welcome on stage. Present your story.
Hello everyone. My name is Gentai Zotai, and I'm the CEO and founder of AI-Land, a digital lending product. In 2014, while traveling on a photography trip in some remote areas of Albania, I picked up an old couple. I said to them, like, "You are so lucky to live in such a beautiful place." But the answer of the old lady was stunning to me. She told me that we are lucky to live here because we cannot die here. "What do you mean by that?" I asked. She explained to me that they had a small family farm, and most of the food they were consuming themselves, and part of it selling in order to buy medicine. What was happening was that a truck was traveling across the whole village, was buying the goods that the villagers were producing with a price that was 10 times lower than the market one. The reason was because the village could not afford to buy a car for a cost of 3,000 to 4,000 euros. That story stuck into my mind. When we dived a bit deeper into this market inefficiency, we saw that roughly 50% of businesses finance their activity through the banking sector, and this number is even lower for individuals. which creates an opportunity of 4.7 billion euros just in Albania. If you run the numbers, the same math across 16 Eastern European countries where Raiffeisen operates or has ties linked to it, this opportunity goes to 85 billion euros. There is a huge gap between banks and customers. So banks on one side speak a very technical language which doesn't resonate with customers that have needs. So this difficult language sometimes is translated in fear of hidden fees and mistrust. So we at iLand still believe that the classical banking is the best source to finance needs, not just for individuals, but businesses as well. So we are here on a mission to ensure fair and easy access to credit for everyone whenever they need it. By doing that, we help customers and banks. Customers on one side to finance their needs by removing these communication barriers, but as well to make better decisions. On the other side, banks don't have to sell just through the branch network, but they can engage and communicate directly with the customer, but as well collaborate with broker agencies like Century21 and Remax that can refer mortgage loans when they see customers in need for money. All this happens in a process, in two-stage process. First, we engage with the client in roughly 30 seconds, and then we onboard the client. We have prepared a short video for you to understand how it works. So probably you access our web app, you get some basic information, and you start the application. You see three options there. You pick one of the products, in my case is money. I fulfill some basic informations. And while the customer fulfills this basic information, we are capable to score the application. So the trustworthiness and the probability for the application to be a good or a bad one. Only through these basic questions, we help the client by providing him a simple personalized offer. So he understands and he gets the full experience he needs in order to get the loan. So he plays around with the monthly installment and tenor that he can afford. And here is the offer appearing. And he can enroll and submit the application directly to the bank. What happened? We launched in December 2020. It was an amazing start, unbelievable for Raiffeisen Bank and for us as well. In just 3 months, we have 2,000 clients, roughly 7.5 million euros referred. These numbers nowadays are 3,000 clients and 10 million euros. We get 10,000 visits per month on our website, and only 25% of these customers are Raiffeisen ones. Meanwhile, we became a kind of celebrity in the market, and 4 banks are already interested in our technology to use our platform as their internal loan origination system. If we operate with the same numbers in Albania for the next 5 years, we expect to generate a new portfolio of 724 million euros, which has a simple business model. We get paid only for successful referrals. It's translated in roughly 4 million euros for the platform. If we go on bigger scale for the 16 countries, this portfolio can be roughly 6.5 billion euros. So that's the short journey of iLand, but amazing one. And we are very happy to have crossed paths with Raiffeisen Bank Albania. That has really helped us to reach on different levels by being GDPR compliant and also passing security related tests. That has grown our platform significantly and made it ready for international expansion. And that's our story. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out through the email that you see, or if you want to play around with our platform, that's the link that you can access it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Geni. Thank you very much for this presentation of the success story. And we're moving on to RBI API Marketplace. And I will welcome on stage Catalina Arteanu, product owner of RBI API Marketplace. RBI API Marketplace is one of the building parts of the Open API team. Its aim is to connect RBI Group with potential partners through open data, through open data-driven innovation in order to discover new use cases which enable superior customer experience. Catalina, the stage is yours, and prepare your questions for the Q&A with Catalina.
Greetings everybody, my name is Catalina Arăteanu and I'm here today to tell you a story about a special kind of partnerships from which savvy fintechs may benefit to a great extent. My story today is about open banking and open APIs. We're talking about some of the hottest buzzwords in the last couple of years. But are they just some buzzwords? According to a recent study that I read, the open banking industry is growing with it double digits yearly. And it's predicted that in 5 years, by 2026, it will reach a global valuation of over 35 billion euros. Have I got your interest now? In case the answer is yes, let's go exploring a bit more. Open banking, or open APIs, fit into a bigger picture of open finance and into an even bigger picture of open data, of shared data. Sharing data makes it possible for humans to benefit from smooth and seamless processes that support everyday interactions. In a world where our data flows, our lives are made so much easier. Imagine, for example, that you want to buy a new car for your family. Open data means that you won't need to produce any written, signed on stamped proof of your income. You don't need to create any physical evidence of the fact that you really do want the bank to grant you a loan. You are able to sign your sales contract electronically, and at the end of the day, absolutely no trees are killed in the process of buying your insurance, or for that matter, in any part of the process. All this is possible in a world where we are connected. Most importantly, this is possible in a world where it's easy for a human to own their data, to safeguard and control it, and to easily decide with whom to share it in a secure way in order to save something. Time, money, a tree, anything you want is possible. Banks do not own their customers' data. Humans own their data, and humans get to decide who to share this precious information with, not the other way around. This shift was very much made possible by a blend of regulatory changes and, at the same time, advancements in technology. We're talking here about APIs. APIs, application programming interfaces, are really nothing new to technology companies. They've been around for quite a while. APIs make it possible for two systems and applications to connect and exchange data in real time in a secure way and following a set of rules that both systems agree upon. Amazon and Google, for example, they have built their business models on APIs. The banking world, though, was a bit late to this game. For banks, until recently, sharing data with third parties was severely frowned upon. We have a duty to protect our data the customers entrusted us with, so we build strong fences and walls around it. But what if a customer really wants us to share their data with somebody else that they trust? Well, in Europe, before PSD2, this simply could not happen. Due to this new regulation, though, since September 2019, all banks in Europe had to allow customers to ask their bank to share data with trusted third parties, based always on the customer's explicit consent. The process of data sharing is enabled by APIs. We, the banks, had to adapt and transform and jump really headfirst into the world of shared data. The European Union is still moving at a slower pace than the UK, for example. The UK had issued their own regulation a couple of years before PSD2, and in 2020 in the UK, 2.5 million bank customers already gave their consent to banks to share data with third parties. The growth rate is phenomenal. It jumped from 1.5 million in the previous year. If we look at the UK as a predictor, we shall soon expect to see faster traction in the EU space as well. This means that we should be ready for it when this big change hits. One of the reasons that the EU lags behind may very well be the difficult processes resulted from the implementation of the regulation on one side. It is really still quite a challenge for a third-party provider to obtain the necessary regulatory certifications. On the other side, it might have something to do with the limited scope of the available APIs. What PSD2 did, though, is to open our bankers' eyes to the multitude of possibilities that APIs enable. Most importantly, we realized that by participating into an ecosystem of partners, we could really make it possible that people benefit from a multitude of new solutions and improvement that we, the bank, may never even realize that they are possible. This also connects perfectly to the RBI Group vision to become the most recommended financial system ecosystem in the CEE, And to even make it more fitting, the helping power of the community is the core belief from which Herr Friedrich Wilhelm Raiffeisen started his new concept of a cooperative bank way back in the 1860s. For us to be ready for PSD2 meant that we had a very strict deadline that led to the initial focus being on regulatory compliance. RBI is present in Austria and 13 other markets in the CEE, 6 of which are countries belonging to the European Union. We have centrally developed individual solutions for each market in order to be fully up and running by September 14, 2019. This means that our APIs first saw the light of day via individual developer portals of each of our network banks. Listening to the collective voice of our fintech partners, we have moved into a new stage of bringing it all together into our brand new API marketplace. But what is a marketplace? Marketplace is simply put a platform that connects producers to consumers, and it provides the tools and flows to make this connection happen. An API marketplace does exactly this for APIs. It connects the API providers in the RBI group, this meaning the different entities under the RBI group brand, to API consumers, which is a totally new type of bank partners. By uniting our forces with partners across all the CE markets that we are not present in, we are certain that the almost 17 million customers who honor us with their trust will benefit from RBI's extended partnership ecosystem. The most important requests that we heard coming from our fintech community, who are also API consumers, were the following. First, to have a single point of access, a single shop, so to say, where they can quickly find the exact API that they need. Second, they wanted to quickly understand the scope and the details of the API. Third, they wanted to initiate API calls as soon as possible and test in a really good sandbox environment. Now, looking inwards towards our API providers in the RBI group, we recognize that we need to make our marketplace what I like to call API provider agnostic. It means that we have built it in a way that all our potential API providers in the group can use the marketplace to publish their APIs without being, for example, obliged to use a certain technology, a certain API management platform. In the future, we even consider the possibility of offering APIs from our trusted fintech partners via our marketplace. However, the main challenge that we face these days for our API marketplace is to find the right content, the right APIs that our partners, the fintechs, that really need. It's not a secret that most of our APIs offers still consists of regulatory APIs with their specific structure, their access procedures, and from a multitude of potential use cases. Which are the most promising ones? Which are the ones that will end up making a real difference in our customers' lives? We do not have a definitive answer to this. What we can do is to ask you, the partners, the fintechs, to reach out to us. We are willing to partner up in the discovery phase, to search together for the next best thing. What is important is that it really ends up making a difference in people's lives, that it really changes something for the better. In the meantime, the entire RBI Group IT is also hard at work preparing the building blocks for exposing our open APIs. This means that there is a concentrated effort on dismantling the legacy infrastructure, transitioning to a modular IT infrastructure, and having a group-wide integration layer. We cannot even start to talk about offering good quality APIs to partners without being API ready internally. All our network banks are involved into this group-wide effort to build a wide array of system APIs. This enables reusability and knowledge sharing and will eventually lead to a better experience for partners that use our group open APIs. We have, as a group, great knowledge scattered around the organization, and we believe that this increased internal reusability will help us move much faster, develop faster solutions for colleagues and also for external partners. For the first time in the RBI group, the new API marketplace allows a sandbox access to multiple API providers with just one sign-up needed. We have now integrated Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, Czech Republic, and Hungary, and we plan to gradually add more and more of our group API providers to the marketplace, of course, when APIs appear. And even if the Open API offer is still young, the usability of the marketplace is where we really, really shine. We made it extremely easy to find the right API that somebody is looking for. There is good documentation available without the need to sign up. But still, I encourage everybody to create a user account on the RBI API marketplace because we offer a unique feature for registered users. We call it API flows. An API flow is an interactive way to initiate an API call from the browser without the need to write single code, without using any additional tool. And you can receive data within minutes and with a few clicks, and you really do not need to have any prior coding experience. So I encourage everybody to sign up, try the feature. It's especially friendly towards business people like myself, and help them understand what an API is and how it works in a very easy and friendly way. This is especially important these days in order to really unleash the potential that open banking and open APIs provide. If we keep looking at APIs as technical items, this will not fly too soon. What we really need to do is to continuously explain, to demonstrate, to educate. Data alone does not mean much when we want to explain, okay, what does this do for me? What's in it for me? What really works is to show the result, show how the data was used to really help a person, to tell a story, to make it simple. We speak human, not code. And I personally believe that this is when open data really starts to fly. And just as important as continuous education and advocacy is our commitment to keep the security standards high and build on the trust capital that people already put into their banks. Customers trust that the informed consent and protection, these are not new notions for the industry. We are historically good at this. We are historically good at protecting people's money, and now we protect data too. The ultimate decision on how to use the money or how to use the data will always reside with the owner. We are only here to make this happen. Lots of stuff can be achieved when the owner decides to share their data. New revenue streams appear, partnership-based information flourishes, new distribution channels grow, and eventually, hopefully, everybody gets happier. But this is the work of a community, not a single team that's somewhere labeled digital or transformation or whatever. We are really talking about the real power of the external community. So, dear community, expect new features and new APIs to release often. I encourage you to visit our api.rbinternational.com, really sign up and test our API flows. I personally promise that the action of creating an account does not trigger the usual corporate spam. However, for those of you who do not mind receiving some messages from time to time, there's always the option to scroll down on the marketplace and sign up for the newsletter. We will keep you posted, not overwhelm you with information, we'll just send you the relevant stuff. So, in conclusion, what we are now focusing on is expanding our API offer, integrate as many as our 13 CE markets as possible, release multiple UX goodies for the people in the community. And without further ado, I would like to thank you very much for sticking with me until the end of the story. And now we can all move to answering the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catalina. Thank you very much. And yeah, let's move on to answering the questions. Let me have a look. Somebody was asking about the link, and thank you, Annette, for posting this link. This is where you can obviously apply for it. Maybe to start, Catalina, with a question: how was the last year for you? How was the Corona crisis for you and your activities within the marketplace?
Hi, Dan. Thank you for asking. Actually, that's a great question. We started the Corona crisis exactly with one team member and building a new team and a new product from scratch. So, the entire product team was onboarded remotely during the Corona crisis. And I'm extremely proud of what we managed to do in the meantime, because it took about half a year to rebuild an API marketplace from scratch with a team entirely onboarded remotely. I think it's a great example. For me, it was uplifting. There were tough times at times, but obviously when everything went live, it was such a happiness.
But also your activities, we were talking to Christian before, there are resources, there's strong commitment to building up this community also on the API side, and I think this proves it very nicely also after Corona.
Absolutely. I think we put a very good basis in place during the Corona crisis, but now it can only grow and multiply and let's say foster a very, very good community and collaboration.
I like what you said about we protect your money, but now we protect your data as well. Maybe I will give you a question that was sent to Christian before. How do you plan to add security into your ecosystem was the question to Christian before, but maybe just to have your comment on that, as I had the impression that security seems to play a very important role in the API ecosystem.
Yes, I think, and that's a personal opinion of mine, that we don't speak enough about the fact that customers own their data, not the banks or whatever other company that collects data from customers. And this open banking in general and PSD2 really put a lot of responsibility back, let's say, into the customer's hands. And the customer owns the data and we owe to them to protect it. So there will be absolutely no sharing of data without an explicit consent from the customer. And all these consents are protected by very high security standards. So it's not like anybody can call an API from Raiffeisen and get customer data in return. It's only if the customer says so. Mm-hmm. It's a very important definition. And I think it's still a myth that runs around in the market that we will share data with no matter whom. It's not true.
Great. One additional question to the kind of sort of APIs that you're going to be providing, because you mentioned the regulatory APIs for the fintechs, but also that this will go beyond that. Can you give us some concrete examples or some insight on what are you planning?
Absolutely. The first example is actually a brand new locations API that we have now on the API marketplace. The locations API is available in Sandbox, is our first API of sorts. It utilizes a set of data from Croatia, but we are now working on expanding it. So for developers who need branches and ATMs locations for their apps, I really encourage you to sign up for the marketplace and try the locations API and really tell us where to move next, which set of data to add next into this new locations API. So it's all about ATMs and branches.
Okay. You mentioned there will be no, I think I can quote you on that, corporate spam if somebody signs up with their account. In general, what is the benefit of somebody who joins your ecosystem? What is also maybe the incentivization for them if they, for example, share their data, work with you on these projects?
I think that it's very important to say that we want to involve the developer community. We want to offer things for developers that they need in order to make their apps better. So exchanging of information, I think, is the main advantage. We will communicate whatever we have next on our pipeline, whatever new APIs, new sets of data are available, and also we will communicate events that might be interesting for this new community that we are building. We organize regularly hackathons and with very good results. We had one last year in autumn aimed at ESG solutions. So this is a very hot topic and we picked a winner and going forward with developing this app. So I think, and also other types of events like public information, open API day, and so on. Hackathons, I think, are extremely important for the developers community because we don't only give prizes, but we take the solutions that they suggest and who win, and we take them further under development.
And on the customer side, I guess it's obvious, better products, more customer, so to say, involvement in the products if they share their data.
Absolutely. I think it's all about customer experience because in the end, why do we do this if the customer is not happy? It's not that we do it because it's a technological miracle and we just tinker around with it. I think that if it doesn't make a human impact, then it doesn't make any sense after all, right? So why we're doing this is to make humans happy, to make people happy, increase the customer experience. It has a purpose. It has to have a purpose.
Perfect. Norma is writing something. It's not really a question, but maybe you can comment on it. Thank you. Would like to connect also regarding the certificate artworks to be linked to bank as trusted capital. I'm not sure whether you understand what the question or the comment is, but trusted capital is maybe a question that I might, so to say, ask you, because trusted custodian of data is something that you're moving towards. Obviously, we trust our money to you guys, but do you think that you will have to gain this trust on the data level in addition in the future years, or will this trust be transformed from being a custodian of the money?
I think that the latter is actually the correct answer. So it's a transfer. It's just that I don't think that banks were seen before as custodians of data, just by custodians of money. But we did historically protect customer data. So it's nothing new for the banks. Maybe it's just about us speaking more about it and expanding these protection capabilities that we already have and really talk about it. I don't think it's something new. It's just something that was not necessarily spoken about. We do protect the data already.
You know, you mentioned, I think, somewhere along your presentation, but also maybe in your first answer, the educational part of the whole API ecosystems. Do you think that we've been focusing too much, let's say, on the technological side of it and too little on the use cases that will occur, the benefits that we will have, the new products and the new customer experiences they will be able? Is this also maybe something that with your activities you would like to embrace and push forward?
Yes, I have to say the answer is yes. I think that if we don't talk human at some point in time, we don't develop fast enough. No, because in the end, APIs are cool and the sets of data going back and forth and new technologies are super cool. But in the end, we have to explain what you gain out of it and why an API should exist and what does it do. If I take Google Maps, for example, I'm not sure how many people know that this is an API, but everybody uses Google Maps. So in the end, it's about the customer experience and the advantages that you get in your everyday life, moving from here to there, doing your everyday activities supported by APIs. And yes, I think that there is a wealth of information and of awareness and of education that we can still tap into.
Do you feel this is still a super niche topic, or is it opening up also the awareness of the benefits of the APIs?
Tough question, this one. I think that if I only look at traffic and searches, and not only on our websites, but competitors' websites and how hot the topic is in Google, if you only look at bank APIs, it's still a niche product. But I think that if we start to talk about the benefits, this ball will roll bigger and bigger and faster and faster.
And translating, so to say, the technology into the real life products and benefits. Catalina, thank you very much for these insights. Maybe on the last question, you can just give us some outlook also to the next year. What are your projects? What are you planning? What is coming? Anyway, anything that you are allowed to share with us?
I would like to really involve the community because, of course, we have the plans and we plan to add new API providers from our group to the marketplace and new products and move beyond integrating the sandbox. So just to move to offering production APIs access via the marketplace. This is really important. This is a step that we are concentrating on, absolutely no secret about it. I would really like to see the community telling us what they need next. We have our ideas. Of course, I cannot say that if somebody asks an API for an API, the next day they have it, but I promise that we look into it. I read all the emails, everything passes through me for now, so I get all this feedback. I will personally contact everybody who's writing to us. So please get involved. It's help us to help you, you know.
Yeah, that's a very good call to action. Actually, I have another question because we posted the link api.rbiinternational.com home. This is where they can apply for it, but Absolutely. They can at any time also just write you an email or contact you or have a question. Is that right?
It's absolutely correct. Via the marketplace contact form, all the emails that are sent are coming to me.
And,
so please use it.
And also, just to have a good impression of an impact that one can have here. We were talking about, with Christian, about also your local network banks in other countries. This is a project, obviously, that goes throughout the whole group, when one can benefit from many, so to say, network banks as well being involved in the project. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. We have multiple banks and they use multiple technologies. So our marketplace is designed to be agnostic. So whatever our providers in the group, so the banks or other subsidiaries wish to expose to our customers, they will be able to do it via the marketplace. So anything that's new in terms of APIs from the group will end up on our marketplace. So please come visit, tell us what to do next, in which countries to push next for developments of APIs, and let's build together some cool use cases that we can talk about.
Perfect, and we'll be happy to help you talk about them in following events or in general media reporting, because you're doing a lot of pioneers work. Thank you, Katarina, very much for all these insights, and see you soon.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. See you soon.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
So now we are moving on to another fintech success story. Johanna Konrad is the Chief Operating Officer and board member of Company, super exciting company. Company participated in the first batch of RBI's Elevator Lab program in 2017 and 18, and in 2018 became a solution provider to the RBI group. It now covers the development and implementation of a group-wide Know Your Customer, KYC, business solution, a success story of the Elevator Lab program, if I may add, one of the strongest and most prominent scale-ups of Austria. Super story that they have. And Johanna, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Hello, my name is Johanna Konrad. I'm the COO at Company with the K, that is. I'm very pleased to meet you today, at least virtually, and tell you a bit more about our involvement in the Elevator Lab program. As a bit of a background, who is Company with a K? Well, we operate a RegTech platform that allows our clients to verify businesses and conduct something we call business know your customer checks, or so-called KYB checks. This is something financial institutions or other regulated entities like payment service providers are required to do as part of their B2B compliance processes under current anti-money laundering regulations. We are founded in 2012 and we are headquartered here in Vienna in Austria. We have clients in over 100 countries and across approximately 10 verticals. To be a bit more specific on what we offer, basically, we have built a worldwide real-time network to commercial registers in 200 jurisdictions, covering approximately 110 million companies. If you look at the main difference in terms of what our service provide versus other company information providers, we are real-time and we provide audit-proof KYB data because it comes directly from the primary source and is delivered unaltered with documentary evidence to our customers. Being a RegTech, we obviously use leading technology to do so too. Now to the topic. In 2017, we became part of the first Fin or RegTechs that participated in the Elevator Lab program. And it really was a great match for us. At the time, we already served customers and generated revenue, but we were working on expanding our offering in terms of a cloud-based platform for the compliance back office with some workflow components included. And the Elevator Lab program offers later stage fintechs the access to real life banking expert. And this is really what we think distinguishes this program from others that we have seen. You not only get in touch with some strategy teams or program managers, but you actually have the possibility to work directly with the operational subject matter experts and get firsthand input for your product development. And in our case, that was the RBI compliance team, which really greatly contributed towards the development of our platform in that first version. At the end of the program, they also became a key customers of ours, and they remain so. And when we did a funding round a while after the program, Elevator Ventures invested into company. And you can see here on the slide, at the time, it was 2017, we were speaking about the future and the road to 2018 and what we would design and build. In the meantime, obviously, almost 4 years have passed and a lot has happened. We have doubled our team. We have more than tripled our revenues and the corporate clients that we serve. And on a service and product level, we have successfully built out our cloud-based business KYC solution on the basis of our core global register network API that we're also further developing with a new developer platform. We have also moved to cover the application layer by launching an AI-based shareholder discovery solution where you can analyze and visualize shareholder structures on the fly, supported by documentary evidence again. And we have developed an on-chain layer service that creates an immutable proof of a KYB check. And more is obviously to come. With that, I would like to say thank you. Hope this was a bit of useful insight on the program and on what we do. Feel free to get in touch if you would like any further information. You can reach me under the email address here or get in touch with the Elevator Lab team. And I wish you a great rest of the day and enjoy the program. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Hannah, and bye-bye. And we are moving forward to our panel discussion on how did post-corona, how did it change things, how active was the fintech community in the past 12 months, investment activities, what are the new trends. And it is my pleasure to introduce this great panel. Christian Wolf is back with me on stage. Christian, servus. Then Maximilian Schossberger, Managing Director of Elevator Ventures, the corporate venture capital entity of Raiffeisen Bank International. Its primary focus is on early stage and growth investments in fintechs and related enabling technologies in Central and Eastern Europe. Max, servus.
Hi, Diane. Thanks.
Virtually with us, Fernando Zornig, Director of Plug and Play Frankfurt. Plug and Play is a partner of Elevator Lab program. Through the network, some of the top entrepreneurial talent is sourced globally to engage with the corporate partners' business objectives and technology interests. Fernando, welcome.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Janusz Naklicki, Chief Strategy Officer of Synerise. Synerise is a Polish fintech focusing on online customer experience and growth development in e-commerce. Finalist of Elevator Lab Advanced Analytics and Loyalty Solution Track in 2020. Janusz, welcome.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Fernando, maybe I will start with you. Since we want to talk about the trends and impact of Corona, you have a bit of an advantage because you have an American view, you know what's going on there. Tell us, what can we expect in Europe? What can you expect in Austria? What kind of developments do you see already in America?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we get that question quite often, to be honest. I would say last year was all about, especially in the US, it was all about RPA and cost-cutting measures, right? Corona came, not all the banks, especially community banks, were prepared to service the customers in a digital format, you know, how to onboard them in a digital format, and all these different things that maybe here in Europe we were a little bit more advanced, but it also kind of impacted quite a lot as well with Corona. I think when we're talking about future and what Corona brought to the financial services industry, especially in the US, it's all about embedded finance. This is something that has been a big topic across the oceans, I would say. In the US specifically, we've seen cases like with Shopify that about 60% of the revenue right now is coming through their payments initiation that they partner with Stripe. And now they just announced a partnership with a firm to offer a buy now, pay later solution. So we're seeing more and more non-financial players moving into the space and also offering financial service products. And we're probably going to see even more in the upcoming months and probably years to come, especially in the US. And here in Europe, I would say it's also, it follows the same trend. Nevertheless, I think open banking in Europe will be something that to take a closer look at. I think I saw, and I was watching the event before, and just before us, we saw, talking about use cases. This is what open banking really needs. It's really about use cases rather than, talking about the tech or the APIs behind it. It's really about what's the benefits, what are the benefits, what the customers, and not only individuals like us, but also the SMEs that have been long gone, forgotten, I would say, and now we're trying to pick up what the time that we lost in the process. So I think SME banking, it's definitely a huge topic here in Europe, and also due to an effect of COVID, especially those were the most impacted businesses or the most impacted people and organizations during this time.
Christian mentioned at the beginning when we talked to him that also the applicants in the Elevator Lab programs moved from only offering and providing some kind of payment solution to a much, much broader scope alongside the customer journey of a banking. And you mentioned that the financial services will increase, but by saying financial services, you don't only mean payment services.
No, so payment, loans, everything. This is today. It's of course they usually start with payments. Maybe it's the low-hanging fruit, but then those things will definitely scale and move to other areas, investments, pensions, and so on and so forth. Great.
Max, maybe let's have a short view on the investment activities in the last year. I remember back in 2020, in March last year, April last year, the venture capital scene was rather waiting what would happen, but then the investment activity picked up. What was your experience? Were you active? Are you active now?
So absolutely, I think that's what we experienced as well. So the first shock was only a short one. And then again, everyone was reacting on this new situation. The strong founders immediately shifted their cost structures, adapted their business models, and actually showcased how they have their startups and their organizations under control. And then we're also able to secure their funding. And we actually saw quite a lot of activity in venture capital, even the same amount or even more. Yeah. Maybe one of the reasons why we saw, especially in our region, in Central and Eastern Europe, where we are active, not only from the numbers, but also from the size of the rounds, and increase, at least that's what we are feeling, was that also these deals were done totally virtual, right? There was no limitation of geography anymore. Investors from all over Europe or even the US would do investments into the hottest startups in also in our region. Maybe even not ever been there. Yeah. I guess that's something that might stay in the venture capital world as a development, that strong regional VCs who have strong network to later stage VC funds will be strong trusted partners of VCs that then come into later rounds with funds not even maybe having the necessity to very much know the founders or be there 2-3 times before investing. This is what we saw over the last 12 months. I personally hope that we will get back to these personal meetings very, very soon. But I do think that this will stay and it will benefit the region of Central and Eastern Europe because it lowers the burden of so capital from capital hubs like London, Berlin, or even the US to enter our market.
What does it mean for you? Do you get stronger competition on the venture capital side, or also a broader opportunity to invest even more internationally, even more globally?
So you can always see both sides, yeah, right? Of course, it's more competition for the funds, but on the other hand, it's also an opportunity because the follow-on rounds, you simply have more opportunities to convince partners, other funds, of the opportunity of this particular company, and that's what we actually see as a positive trend.
Christian, something similar is what you mentioned at the beginning, that also in terms of applicants to your programs and the outreach of the ecosystem, this digital situation in Corona strongly improved and increased actually your outreach.
Yes, definitely. I just want to highlight that and emphasize it again. It democratized kind of the access to our program, but also it certainly helped us to extend our view and to look also much closer to things that might have seemed very distant, actually. So we're also looking very closely, for instance, what's happening in the Asian ecosystem. Basically, we are talking a lot about open banking, but we need to admit that open banking has been driven by PSD2 in Europe, basically. But open banking, if you look at the large banks like DBS in Singapore, has been there in Asia for long without any such regulation of PSD2. So for us, this is a pool of ideas, this is a pool of talent, this is a pool of technology that we want to tap into.
For us, maybe the whole topic of open banking was regulatory triggered, but you saw the value of it, and you don't do it because of regulatory necessity, but because of the value for the users and customers, as far as I understood it today.
Exactly. Of course, we aim to do everything to be compliant, but most of the effort and most of the focus goes into what we call actually open API internally, and Catalina presented this earlier today, and we strongly believe that not only on PSD2 based data, but in generally APIs not only seen as a technical interface, and I think Fernando just phrased it perfectly, APIs as a means of cooperation, as means of digital business model, as a means of being a product in itself, right? This is what we're looking for.
Perfect. Janos, how was it for fintechs last year? How was it for you? We hear a lot about fintechs, or in general startups, profiting from the digitalization boom of Corona crisis. At the same time, obviously, at the beginning, it was uncertain whether the funding will be there, how is the cost structure, maybe the revenues that were, so to say, under pressure at the beginning. How was this last year for you?
Right. Maybe not as a fintech, but as a deep tech, we try to position ourselves. And I like to point as a deep tech on the more on the technology side of the equation. So I would like to point on two elements: the continuing evolution of machine learning and AI, and the data-driven approach of digital transformation. Those two elements are the key in the last 12 months. The use of machine learning and artificial intelligence has been increasing significantly in the recent years and accelerated in the last 12 months. The combination of basically upskilling of the data scientists, development of the data engineering, and increasing the number of actual machine learning and AI algorithms implemented in practical use cases. We've heard about this practicality of use cases by Fernando. Therefore, data scientists from the companies like Raiffeisen, for example, with the help of deep tech companies like Synerise, are able to create their own data pipelines, features, and automation frameworks close to production-ready solutions. So again, this is corresponding with this API-first approach. The second, the strong trend that we've seen was the data-driven of the digital transformation. Not IT anymore, not IT system, not applications, but data platforms are playing the most important role in the global economy, global e-economy, in our opinion. So the data-driven enterprise was spreading the trend of digital transformation, across majority of the industries, not only e-commerces, financial services, but also traditional retailers, the brick and mortar retailers, service companies, for example, logistics. And then we as a Synerise, we capture data platform paradigm shift before it even became a trend and fashion. So for us, the last 12 months was very interesting, I would say. We operate not only in the financial services, but also in e-commerce retailers. So there was a strong boost in demand down there. We were able to win many large customers who shared with us the vision of the data-driven enterprise from basically all industry segments. So because we do believe in the co-development approach with our customers. In terms of the AI, we further invested in the AI team, which resulted in the winning of the Global Rakuten AI contest, and we came as a second after NVIDIA in Booking.com global contest. So we basically know your vacation plans before you make your decision right now. So, well, maybe before your wife makes your decision right now. So exciting year for us, a lot of change. We are now in the pre-round B of investment. So a lot of happening. Great year.
Amazing. Fernando, it was interesting to hear. Do you see that in this fintech space, the trend will go towards not even talking about fintechs as we used to so much, but as a deep tech companies which can enrich banks in certain different collaborations and cooperations, not only focusing on what we used to understand as fintechs?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fintech term has been, I think, the longest, I would say, used across all the medias and across all channels. I think it's been already for quite some time that we've been hearing that, fintech is much more than what, the financial services industry provides. And I think we see folks like Solaris Bank that it is a fintech because they have a banking license, et cetera, or they are offering fintech or financial service products, but they're also their target customers is everyone outside of financial services, basically. So we see, guys like Amazon, the big techs, moving close more and more to the financial service industry. And I think what the financial service industry then is trying to do is, picking up the pace, offering different solutions because they already have the customer base today. And they have the power and the resources to move the needle and also to maintain the relationship with the customers, and that's what is important. But also, they need to offer the relevant solutions at the right time to the right person and very personalized. And I think that's where Janus was mentioning, deep tech and artificial intelligence is really important to understand even better the customer before the customer even realizes that that's what she or he wants, right? So I think, fintech is a broader term. Here at Plug and Play, we use, we include cybersecurity as a fintech. We include other areas as fintechs, just as a broader term, and also to facilitate the lingo. I think in general, there's much more within the term fintech, and from different industries as well. You can see products. I mean, is a payment solution a fintech? Is fintech, or is it a retail focus? Is it, it depends on where it applied, I would say.
Max, does that, so to say, refocuses your investment focus? Do you have kind of broader strategy on investment? How do you position yourself currently?
Absolutely, and I totally agree with what Fernando said. It's becoming embedded finance opens up so many opportunities. Having open banking as a strong foundation for these kind of use cases, and we see that in many verticals, in many other industries, the financial aspect is becoming part of actually business models. So Elevator Ventures, we have taken first steps to these beyond banking business models. We have invested, for example, in a US-Russian agri marketplace, agri-tech, so about facilitating farmers' lives and the whole trade chain around agri-tech. And here it's a lot about finance, right? It's about trade finance overall, but it can be done in such a focused and a customized way to farmers and farmers-specific needs that, again, people coming from the farming perspective, combining with the strengths of a bank, can really add value in a new way to a particular group of customers. And I think that's a trend that we expect to see much, much more, and where we want to put some investments into business models that maybe go beyond the core banking business model, be it then in the future in mobility, in utility, or in many, many more. And here, open banking is a necessary foundation. And everything around embedded finance will, I think, increase monetization of marketplaces and of different customer access and targeted customer approach in different verticals. And that's where we think growth can happen, and that's why we will, as a venture capital, invest.
Growth can happen. Is the growth phase the phase where you invest, or did you sort of reshift your focus on pre-stage, pre-seed, seed, and what stage do you focus on currently?
So we actually see a lot happening in the seed phase in Central and Eastern Europe, all across the countries. There's a lot of activity of local funds who are partly funded also by European Investment Fund and other supranational entities. And this is very, very important, right? This sets the stone for the early growth. And we don't think that it's necessary that a corporate goes into this stage of venture capital investment. But then the next step of actually companies having a foothold in one country, having their first successful customer projects, having first recurring revenues, and want to internationalize, expand their business model, co-develop and go and bring further. That's where we can add value as a venture capital fund, as Elevator Ventures, but of course with the backing of RBI and the network in Central and Eastern Europe in 13 countries. So the step to internationalization, the growth phase, the road from Series A to Series B, that's where we feel comfortable.
Christian, do these trends that we're talking about also influence your programs in the Elevator Lab, the focus within those?
Yeah, definitely. I think and it was by coincidence that Fernando mentioned the kind of discussion around the terminology of fintech. Actually, we just led this discussion internally as well recently. And there was a tendency in banking to see fintech as this is some startup engaging in technology that might be relevant or helpful for banks. But even though this is true, but this is not limited to that. So fintech is a much broader term. We see actually fintechs in our sense that are actually outgrowing incumbent banks as we are. And the other thing is fintechs is, of course, in the term it's tech, but it's more about the use case than about the tech, right? And this is definitely something that we see developing. It's been a discussion around what is the role of data platforms. Yeah. It's been a discussion about what is the role within ecosystem that the bank should take in teaming up with the relevant players within that system. And these are actually all questions that drive our daily business. And I strongly believe that even in the advent of open banking, especially what the gentleman from Sinerise mentioned, is it's all about being capable to manage that rich source of data that is now coming in, that is partly unstructured, that bring it together to the benefit of all of the stakeholders and participants.
Janos, you mentioned, I will pick up the topic of data platforms and data-driven companies, data-driven transformation. Obviously, we're talking with RBI today as one of the pioneers and role models in this field. But when we look at the broader enterprise landscape, many are not as far yet. When they talk about digital transformation, then often you will realize that at the end of the day, let's say an SAP project came out that improved maybe some internal processes, but not the scope that you're speaking about. How can you, so to say, reach these kind of enterprises to explain the necessity of data platforms, data-driven transformation? What are your experiences there? What kind of language do you have to put for you to be able to work with them?
Well, we use natural language processing, in other words, humans, like myself. We have not replaced humans with the AI algorithm yet, although we are on the good way to do this. So pointing on the two elements again, we are a meritocratic company, so everything around mathematics, we feel very good about this, but I want to refer to what Christian was saying about the massive amount of data and the capturing this massive amount of data. The companies are sitting on the silos, on the piles of data, and they know that they are in possession of such data, but they are not really able to do this properly or approach this properly. So we are trying to implement or introduce the AI analytics base to this massive amount of data, using the big data algorithm and machine learning to assess the, for example, likelihoods, the things that are happening in the future based on the events and the happening in the whole ecosystem of the data. So when you involve the other elements of the company ecosystems like social media, like mobile application, everything suddenly becomes more human capable to understand the why you need this analytics, why you need AI analytics to prove the to improve the customer experience, why you need AI analytics to identify customers who have the, for example, highest lifetime value. How do you want to use this to improve the operational processes or foresight the offered by forward nature of the analytics? This is the example. When it comes to the customers, and speaking the same human language, AI analytics enables companies to monitor and measure the customer behavior, both in the interaction with the company, but what is the most important across the whole digital and social platforms. So you can, for example, identify the spend trends, the purchasing powers, the loyalty, and the customer feedback. So from the mathematics to human interaction, it's very easy, in our opinion, to translate this. And then we do this not only just because it's a great fun to calculate the huge amount of data, but we use this to improve the operational processes. We are able to engage with the companies to optimize the, for example, vendor risk management, the churn prediction, and so on. So again, back to normal human interaction and using the normal language. So we're translating deep tech into the human language with our platform. The example that we have, for example, and I'm allowed to do this because we are here among the companies that are participating in the Elevator Lab. We run with the Raiffeisen Bulgaria is the AI project that we are defining the propensity of certain products. I will not disclose which products. So the bank is able to personalize the offering, increase the conversion while they lower the cost of sales. So again, translation from the algorithm, from the big data to the use cases and the basically how enterprises are going to benefit. What is the bottom line? I think that's the trick.
Fernando, what is the bottom line? That's the trick. But what is the future, so to say, in the fintechs, we obviously want to have some of the advice on what kind of business models, fintechs, etc. we should invest. Where are the hidden champions? Where are the future unicorns? Can you give us some idea on that? Let's say in the next few years, and I think 5 years is probably too far away. Maybe in the upcoming years.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's always a great question to get, and we get quite often. I mean, we would love to know ourselves who will be the next unicorn. We will also invest on them, but I think some key areas that I can say is, and it started 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we were talking about digital banking, and with challenger banks, with the likes of N26, Revolut, etc. We're talking and we were telling everyone, look, this will come, and it's not just a hype. It will come at in the next few years. So it actually came. You see in the US also, everyone now is opening a Chime bank account. It's very easy. It's just the way to go, especially in the earlier generations. And so this was what happened in the past. So what we look today to in 5 years, we've seen, especially this year, there's a lot of around data analytics, trying to make understanding of what kind of data points the bank already have, but also in search of the different data points that they can get from the outside world. And what Max said about the agricultural space, or in other industries and other areas, that you can really drive better decisions afterwards with some inputs and some data points coming in from those. I think banks in general sit in a lot of data as well already. They have the data. It's not about acquiring it, but it's about making smart decisions based on the data that they have, and really personalized to each individual, each company, etc. And then pushing it back to open banking. I mean, open banking was, I think it's just in the start of it. So more, from the individual perspective, more on credit scoring, credit decision making. There's a lot of in the space. Right now, ESG, it's a big topic. And so all around carbon footprint analysis, and so on and so forth. So most of these applications for the individuals, but I think where the goal is on SME banking. So cash management, trade finance, aggregating their financial positions, credit scoring for the SMEs as well. Because here in Germany, for example, it takes about 20 days on average for a loan to be approved for an SME. In 20 days, that SME might be dead already. So especially in the speeds, and especially with a situation like COVID. So it really needs to kind of improve in that sense and make it better decisions with better data points. And I mean, Janos mentioned, most of the time it's just because they're siloed. It's not really that they don't have that intelligence. It's just a matter of really putting point A to point B together and in a faster way and a great customer experience. There's also one area that it's usually very polemic, I would say, which is crypto and blockchain, right? We've been, in the past 5 years, everyone had a hammer and they wanted to find the nail with the blockchain use case. Where is the use case? So I think where it's going to come, it's definitely around, not blockchain, but the cryptocurrencies in general, digital currencies, is definitely around CBDC as the new hot topic for this year and the years to come. Most of the central banks are all across the world, in Brazil, Latin America, all the way to the Asian markets, the US, here in Europe, a lot of them already talking about digital currencies from an infrastructure standpoint, adoption, tokenization of assets, everything that relates to it. I think it's going to be coming in the next, you mentioned 5 years, so let's put 5 years timeline. I think that's a good, I think it might come even before, maybe in 3 years, it can be a reality.
Great. Christian, are you keeping an eye on, let's say, the big shots in the fintech community? Do you have an overview where are the big ones hidden, or where are they coming from? Who are they?
Yeah, I liked it very much what Fernando just said. It's basically perfectly summarizing our point of view. Just let's quickly get back to the data discussion. I completely agree. We are data rich, but information poor. So everything, for instance, also our cooperation with Raiffeisen, etc., is aiming at actually really understanding and leveraging that data to the benefit of the customer. The second thing is now relating to your question. Yes, when it comes to use cases, especially on the blockchain technology, I completely agree with Fernando. Even though we might not call it cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, etc., but we strongly believe that the disruptive potential is in digital assets in general. When it comes to the tokenization, for instance, of equity, etc. So because this is an integral part of our banking business, and it really has a very disruptive potential on how we deal with assets in the future, even with traditional ones. And this is where we closely, of course, follow the market developments. And actually, when we look here, we see not only an ecosystem building up, but we see the ecosystem growing exponentially quick. And we have market players like Bitpanda here in the Vienna market that have already shown that this use case is actually working out. And this is what we are looking for.
Max, where do you see your future success stories? And maybe you can give us some insights on the current one. What were the success stories of your activity so far, and where do you see them in the future?
Yeah, a lot has been said, and maybe let's give some examples. So we've invested in a Romanian company called FintechWeek. They are preparing now as a first step to become the infrastructure for open banking in Southeastern Europe. So they are plugging into all the banks. They are making sense of the data that they can consume from the banks. But of course, that's only the first step, right? Then when you can make sense out of it, you can actually really start building use cases and business models on top of that. And here we are back to the data. So a lot of the companies that we believe in are starting new ways of doing business in fintech in Central and Eastern Europe. We have invested recently in a Czech company called Twisto. I mean, they are already a bit more advanced, but here clearly the trend of easing payment methods online at the e-commerce checkout, but also at the POS, making it very simple for customers to choose, do I pay now, do I pay later, do I pay in installments, and everything on a click on my app. That's a huge trend right now. And coming back to what I've said, this customization of banking really making, not only focusing on SME overall, but there are so many subtypes of SMEs, be it freelancer, be it small farmers. We have an investment into a company called Tarfin that is really focusing and making it for the first time for a lot of very small micro farmers in Turkey, but also in other parts of Southeastern Europe, making it possible for them to lend money to make to earn more on their grains, for example, right? This is a huge step forward for a lot of people and making finance accessible for a lot of people who didn't have access before. Everything around this ESG topic, maybe that was not yet mentioned, right? With an S in the middle, the social. So a lot of unbanked target groups that can, through accessing new data and making it available for banks, become more financeable. But that's just some examples of what we do and what we believe in.
In any case, super exciting times ahead, I guess, the way it sounds. Janos, what about you guys? Super exciting times ahead. What are you up to in the 2021 this year?
Well, from the geography perspective, after Europe and Middle East customers, we would like to go Americas, both North and South. From the technology perspective, I give you the example. We worked with one of the Italian customers on the project called Auto Cliente, which is the some kind of the autonomous system where the data is captured from all different sources, and after you apply the AI analytics, a very hyper personalization offering, and the communication is automatically activated. So this is some kind of the automation to the exponential power. So that's very exciting year ahead of us. So looking forward.
Fernando, can you help him on the American markets?
Yeah, for sure. We are in touch with Synerise already, so we'll definitely talk that offline and see if we can help them not only North but South America as well, as we have very good presence in the Latin American market.
And what about your, so to say, for your own company, plug and play activities in this year? Do you, so to say, profit from the digital outreach, from the broader outreach? How are your activities going to look like this year?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think, we came to Europe back in 2018 with the FinTech vertical, let's say, and we kicked off, and we're based here in Frankfurt, but we're very European wide. So it's just to expand the reach that we have. So bringing in more players from not only the traditional banking players, but payments, asset and wealth management firms, and so on and so forth. So really trying to diversify as well on the type of topics that we're seeing, as we did in the US, right, or as we did in Southeast Asia, etc. So it's a time to diversify our approach, because we have very good startups within the community that can help in any of those areas. So for sure, focus on expansion within Europe and within continental Europe, and also finding new other markets across the globe, and also in the US, to kind of localize the services that we have and go to where the customers are, and not having the customers go to where we are. So we're trying to walk the talk that we do.
Perfect. Christian, maybe final question for the panel. Where do you also see some room for improvement when it comes to the collaborating with fintechs, the partnerships area? What can we improve still? What are your outlines?
There's always room for improvement. I think just looking back, I think the last few years we spent doing a lot of groundwork and footwork. And I think it was quite natural to evaluate the business impact that a new technology like, for instance, blockchain or even APIs could have to the bank. And I think now we have mastered that kind of, and we've already seen our success stories today, like the marketplace, etc. And I think now the focus is definitely shifting from less tech talk to more use case talk. And what does more use case talk mean? This means that, for instance, we will refocus our elevator lab even more towards the local needs and requirements of our local markets. This would also mean that we will engage much more than we ever did in the last few years with the community. We want to team up. We want also not only to team up with the partners that we already know quite nicely, like fintechs, as I said earlier. We want to open up also our cooperation offer to any other startups that might not necessarily be within what we usually call the fintech space, but all kinds of technologies, all kinds of use cases. Why I'm specifically mentioning that is one thing that we started now this year, and we want to build it up even more, is this cross-industry partnership topic, meaning that we team up with our corporate partners in building use cases where each partner brings in its best capabilities. But this would also mean that, Max said it earlier, that we work on use cases that are just adjacent or even beyond banking core cases, right? And this would mean that we are definitely also looking into solution spaces that are not close to fintech, that might engage with whatever kind of use case, right? So the limitations are more or less loosened more and more on the way that we move forward.
Perfect. Looking forward to what is up to come. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Fernando. Thank you, Janos, for being with us on this panel, for all your insights, and all the best.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Max and Christian, what remains is maybe a short closing round. Max, what are your next activities? Where can the community reach you?
We are always reachable through all channels, be it LinkedIn, being our homepage, be it person, meet up hopefully at some events in the future. No, seriously, after this 1 year of virtual get to know, I'm really looking forward to already traveling again, meeting people in person. We've held several board meetings from the start of our startups. Only virtually. I'm really looking forward to really flying to Sofia, or going to Prague or wherever to meet up with investors, with the startups, and try to come up with new ideas.
And expect a post-corona boost for startups, for the portfolio, for the digitalization?
I'm sure.
Christian?
Nothing much to add. Actually, this is the very same thing here. If you ask me for the post-corona boost, actually it's a corona boost. We've seen corona boosting digitalization of the business, and even more so, I believe a lot of that will stay afterwards. But I'm also quite looking forward to meeting people in person again, and to discuss partnerships, certainly. And again, let me please just emphasize our upcoming Elevator Lab demo days, including our Fintech Atlas launch day. I think this is another nice touch point that we might have with the community. And also please look forward for our specific teams, be it OpenAPI, the Blockchain Hub, etc., reaching out to you. And I would be very happy if we have as much as possible in discussion engagements.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for this closing remark. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for your questions and your comments. And stay in touch. As you could hear, RBI is continuously super serious about building up this community, partnering up with you, investing, and being one of the key players in the financial sector. So stay tuned and we'll inform you about anything that's upcoming. Thank you for being with us and goodbye.